She is the most important child in the world, and one day she will be queen of the Hermit Kingdom. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un has a daughter, a young teenager, who lives a life so carefully hidden that the world doesn't know her age, the sound of her voice, even her name. But over the course of the last several years, expert observers of North Korea agree with a growing certainty that this young woman is being prepared to assume control of her entire nation. 26.5 million people, a nearly century-old frozen conflict, and dozens upon dozens of world-ending nuclear weapons will one day be hers, and she will be venerated by the same fanatical cult of personality that turned her father, her grandfather, and her great-grandfather into gods among men. Best guess? Her name is Kim Jong-un, and one day she's gonna be a dictator. Now, at the start of today's episode, we got to make one thing very, very clear. Everything we think we know about the future North Korean dictator, Kim Jong-un, may be a lie. Depending on the sources you believe, she might be called Kim Yo-jong or Kim Joo-ye. She could be Kim Jong-un's first child, his second, or perhaps she occupies some other position in a family tree that the world knows almost nothing about. The North Korean state and its propaganda machine have never confirmed that she is her father's heir, and, as we'll explain, the world knows almost nothing about the palace politics that could either elevate her or ensure that she never reaches the heights that her father seems to have set for her. Reading the tea leaves on the inside of North Korea's dictatorship, let alone the dynamics of the Kim family itself, is a notoriously risky business. So, as we examine the life and significance of a young woman we're going to refer to as Kim Jong-un, remember, for all practical purposes, this person is a ghost. And that's precisely how North Korea likes it. Among the many things that we do know about Kim Jong-un is the time and circumstances of her birth. We could guess that she was born in late 2012 or early 2013 when her mother, North Korean First Lady Ri Sol-ju, disappeared from the public eye for a span of several months. Ri Sol-ju is a very private figure in her own right. Little is known about her background or upbringing, although she's believed to be part of a high-profile North Korean family and may have traveled abroad during her younger years. Ri Sol-ju returned to public appearances in the spring of 2013, and about 6 months after that time, the world got its first indication that a new member of the Kim family had been born. That news came by way of the eccentric ex-basketball player Dennis Rodman in his second of a series of meetings with Kim Jong-un that were global news at the time. In September of that year, Rodman told the press that he had met Kim Jong-un's infant daughter and revealed what most later sources have agreed probably is her name, Kim Jong-un. According to Rodman, Kim was a, quote, great dad. According to South Korea's National Intelligence Service, disclosing the information that it possessed on Kim Jong-un after her first public appearance in 2022, Jong-un's childhood in North Korea was fit for a ruler-in-waiting. She was privately tutored in the North Korean capital of Pyongyang, and she enjoyed hobbies including skiing, swimming, and what's apparently her strong suit, horseback riding. But the first time the world ever saw her face or indeed gained any direct confirmation of her existence was in November of 2022 when she appeared beside her father to watch the launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile. Wearing a white winter coat and gripping her father's hand, Kim Jong-un was depicted strolling beside the missile that was to be launched that day. North Korea revealed no information about her except that she was Kim's, quote, beloved daughter, and at the time, Western media went with wild speculation on just why Kim had chosen that moment to reveal her existence. At the time, theories ranged from an attempt to reframe Kim Jong-un's personal propaganda narrative to a distraction from rising problems across North Korea to an attempt to signal Kim's successor in advance of a possibly imminent demise. Whatever the reason, it quickly became clear that the regime wanted North Koreans and the rest of the world to know about the nation's first daughter. The nation rapidly issued 5 new stamps depicting her face, and she appeared frequently in state photos at her father's side, often with the two showing visible affection toward one another. According to anonymous sources quoted by one media organization in South Korea, families in the North were issued a nationwide order around this time. If you've got a daughter called Jong-un, change her name immediately. She never got a name in North Korean state media, just a title, but that too changed with time. At first, she was the precious daughter or the beloved daughter, both thought to signal her immense value to North Korea's leaders and thus the entire nation. But before long, she became the respected daughter, and in North Korea, that's a massive deal. There, the title respected is a very rare thing, granted only to those who are meant to be revered by North Korean society. Kim Jong-un himself only gained the title of respected in the months before he took on the mantle of supreme leader. From there, Kim Ju-ai became a fixture at her father's side during events and appearances that North Korea framed as being particularly grandiose or worthy of celebration. She was saluted to by senior military generals, she helped North Korea celebrate holidays and pivotal anniversaries, and she slowly entered the orbits of international diplomats who came to visit the country. But after a few years of domestic appearances, it was only within the last few weeks, as of the time of writing, that she really has had a coming-out party. In September of 2025, Kim Ju-ai joined her father on a massive military parade meant to celebrate the anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. For the child of a North Korean dictator to travel abroad alongside the supreme leader, well, that was an exceptionally unusual occurrence. The last time it happened was in the 1950s, when Kim Jong-un's father, also a teenager at the time, traveled with his father in the days just after the Korean War. During the trip to Beijing, Kim Ju-ai seemed to handle herself quite well, traveling at her father's side as he greeted foreign dignitaries and standing in a carefully selected position that's almost always reserved for North Korea's First Lady. She didn't attend the military parade herself, but during the broader festivities, her father was moving in the same circles as Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and other critical global leaders, raising the distinct possibility that behind closed doors, Kim may have decided to make an introduction. Now, before the trip to Beijing, Kim Ju-ai's status within the Kim family dynasty was a subject of open debate among international experts. According to some, she was quite obviously being groomed as an heir, positioned so close to her father on so many occasions that her station had become practically impossible to deny. According to others, she was more of a propaganda piece, just another moving cog in the grand machinery of Kim Jong-un's personality cult. Still others suggested that this may be Kim Jong-un's way to simply help his daughter see the world, bringing her to interesting places and showing her interesting people at a time when it would be far harder for her to study anonymously at Western institutions than it had been for her father or her uncles and aunts. But after she joined her father in Beijing, those same global experts started moving toward a clearer consensus. Most likely, Kim Ju-ai really is her father's successor. Despite how unpredictable and unknowable as North Korea can sometimes be, it is important to emphasize that this is a regime where nothing happens by accident, especially encounters by foreign leaders, and most especially occasions where North Korea's leader travels abroad. For Kim Ju-ai to be included in such a prominent position is almost certainly an attempt to show that she lives in proximity to power today, and that she's being trained to assume that power in the future. Of course, Kim Ju-ai's story doesn't end with that conclusion. In fact, that's where her story really begins. For Ju-ai to be chosen so openly and elevated so early as her father's successor raises some massive questions, not least of which is the question of why now? As uncomfortable as it may be to recognize, especially when we're speaking about a child, being publicly anointed as the successor to a dictatorship is a dangerous thing. North Korea's internal security is very good at keeping its leaders safe, but even still, Kim Jong-un's choices have placed an unmistakable target on his daughter's back. No matter how well protected she might be, there's always going to be a non-zero amount of risk in declaring her as a successor. So the question is, of course, why the urgency? The easiest explanation would come down to the health of her father, a man who's only in his early 40s at the time of writing, but is believed to have been in very poor health at times during his tenure. Even before he became supreme leader, he was believed to be diabetic, he's a smoker, he's been seen with a limp and then a walking stick, and he's gained and lost weight rapidly. In 2020, he was even rumored to be dead or in a prolonged coma. But even though that health profile would suggest that there will always be reasons for Kim to be concerned that he could die suddenly, it's worth noting that Kim recently appears to be in better health. According to South Korean intelligence disclosures, the North Korean regime is actively working to improve his health and prolong his life, including through the use of medications that aren't normally available in the country. During his time in Beijing, he appeared to be in fine health relative to usual. Of course, there's still the possibility of a sudden demise, in which case North Korea seems to be signaling that his power would pass to Kim Ju-ai. But that raises another difficult question. Would North Korea, and particularly the North Korean elite, accept Kim Ju-ai as a leader? The nation is among the most patriarchic of the entire world, even among elite families where men traditionally keep a tight grip on the lives and ambitions of their wives, sisters, and daughters. That pattern has slowly been changing under Kim Jong-un, who's elevated more women to key positions across North Korea than at any other point in the country's history. But to make a woman supreme leader, that's a whole other matter. Perhaps Kim Joo-ai's early elevation could be a way to get North Korean elites used to her position as successor and ensure that if they air their grievances, they'll do it when her father is still around to hear their complaints, reassure them, chastise them, or if necessary, just ship them off to the gulag. Even still, there's no telling what could happen once Kim Jong-un isn't around, and for no fault of her own, Kim Joo-ai's gender could turn out to be an asset to her internal enemies. It's practically impossible to tell how North Korea's elites feel about the Kim dynasty right now, not least because they understand that if they publicly indicate that they feel less than spectacular about the Kims, then the firing squad is always a quick clap away. Or maybe Kim rings a little bell for that, or presses a special red button. Kim, if you're watching, would love if you could clarify. But the death of Kim Jong-un, especially if it were to happen suddenly and in a way that creates confusion, could be the perfect opportunity for a palace coup. The Kim dynasty has been in charge for about 3/4 of a century, and certainly there's at least a couple of ambitious, calculating souls left within the North Korean elite. Typically, the adoration that the North Korean people are taught to show toward the Kim family would function as a kind of insurance policy. After all, it's not a great idea to overthrow the supreme leader if that'll immediately prompt a proper uprising with the support of many horrified elites and military leaders. But passing the mantle to Kim Joo-ai means passing the mantle to a woman, and internal plotters may calculate that this would create enough of a window for them to justify their actions. And it's not just that Kim Joo-ai is a woman, she's also a very young woman. Certainly, handing control over the nation over to a 13-year-old if Kim were to die tomorrow probably isn't a brilliant idea. And it's here that we have to introduce another player in the North Korean family dynasty, Kim Yo-jong, younger sister to Kim Jong-un, presumably the beloved auntie to Kim Joo-ai, and a very influential figure within the North Korean leadership. Before Joo-ai took such a prominent role, Kim Yo-jong was often floated by international observers as a potential successor for her brother. She's well known to the North Korean public, she's got plenty of diplomatic connections of her own, and she seems to have a fairly significant power base. The fact that Kim Joo-ai and her aunt both appear to be so close to the supreme leader doesn't mean that they're necessarily allies. Perhaps Joo-ai's aunt feels spurned or passed over for the role of supreme leader, or who knows what else. There's plenty of potential for palace drama, but there's also potential for Kim Joo-ai's aunt to serve as a sort of regent if Kim Jong-un were to pass unexpectedly. Kim Yo-jong already has the political connections and the sheer political power to advocate on behalf of her niece and help to lock down the line of succession in the event of a crisis, and should be better positioned than possibly anybody in North Korea to prepare Kim Joo-ai to take on her role as North Korea's first woman to be supreme leader when the time is right. But there's one other potential complication to account for: the suspected existence of Kim Joo-ai's older brother, a son who's believed to have been born in 2010 and would be in his mid-teens today. His name and indeed his very existence have never been acknowledged by North Korea, but if he is real and is alive today, then his existence raises important questions about Kim Joo-ai. As we've said, North Korea is a deeply patriarchal society, and where Kim Joo-ai could struggle to gain traction as her father's successor, it stands to reason that an older brother could have an easier path before him. Before Kim Jong-un's own ascension to the status of supreme leader, his older brother, Kim Jong-nam, was thought to be the heir apparent until he fell out of favor with the regime in 2001, and after that, his other older brother, Kim Jong-choi, was described as the heir apparent through 2009. For North Korea, succession within the Kim family dynasty is an exceptionally important affair, and according to reporting informed by defectors and intelligence sources within the country, the process of choosing North Korea's current leader reportedly involved the military taking sides, helping to sponsor the successor they chose. So that begs the question, does Kim Joo-ai actually have an older brother? And if so, then why is it Joo-ai and not her older brother who's been seen in public so often? One potential explanation, if her older brother does exist, could be that he deals with a disability of some kind. North Korea is notorious for its treatment of disabled communities, separating those people into brutal specialized camps as recently as the year 2000 and banning them outright from the capital city of Pyongyang. South Korean intelligence has noted rumors that Kim Sung could be disabled, but has indicated that those rumors have not yet been confirmed. Temperament plays just as important a role and is seen as being more important than the question of age when choosing the next supreme leader. One of Kim Jong-un's older brothers reportedly lost the faith of his potential backers, partly due to an interest in Western music and travel abroad that seemed to come before his devotion to the family dynasty. By the time Kim Ju-ai first appeared in public, her older brother would have been roughly the age that Ju-ai is now, meaning that their father and his inner circle would likely have made their early judgments about him. But even if that older child does exist, and for whatever reason he's been deemed unsuitable to claim his father's mantle, his existence could still lead to a succession crisis if his father were to die or be incapacitated suddenly. Between that deep patriarchal impulse running through North Korea and the ambition of high-level officials who may have grown tired of life under the Kim family exclusively, an older brother could very quickly become a tool for a rival political faction to leverage. If that's the case, then it would be all the more important for Kim Ju-ai to have powerful backers of her own, and especially for her to be the known and expected successor that more powerful nations like China and Russia would be anticipating. Expose her to those connections now, turn her into a known quantity for not just North Korea's leadership but its international partners, and Kim Jong-un may be trying to coup-proof his daughter's claim to legitimacy before a crisis even begins. As for whether a living son of Kim's could be in physical danger, that's difficult to say, but according to South Korean media, after Kim had his uncle executed for treachery in 2013, he oversaw a purge that wiped out basically that uncle's entire line of descendants. In the coming years, Kim Ju-ai is likely to become a far more prominent part of North Korean society, or at least that's what her current trajectory under her father's guidance would seem to suggest. Barring any crisis or other sudden transfer of power, Kim Ju-ai's time at her father's side will likely see her gradually be shown more and more signs of her father's trust. Instead of just sitting next to her father to watch a missile launch, she may stand up tall and bark out a launch order. Instead of just standing behind her father to greet China's foreign minister, she may greet him herself. Instead of attending parades or celebrations in her father's shadow, she may one day attend those parades in his stead, slowly acclimatizing the North Korean nation to the sight of her acting as a ceremonial leader. As that public evolution plays out, North Korea's propagandists might start to pitch in, highlighting her status as a respected leader, beginning to build a personal mythology and perhaps even revealing her name. If her cult of personality is anything like her father's, it may soon venture into the outlandish, with North Korean students mandated to learn songs and hymns in her honor, or major rallies organized to venerate her as stately titles begin to pour down upon her. And behind the scenes, the prospect of her eventual succession may prompt some sudden changes within her father's inner circle. Remember, this is an extraordinarily paranoid regime, and once Kim Ju-ai's status as successor is set in stone, Pyongyang will be compelled to protect her at all costs, actively seeking out threats to her ascension while her father is still in charge. Internationally, Kim Ju-ai is unlikely to follow in her father's footsteps and spend years in Western institutions like her father did in Switzerland. Between the fact that her appearance is well known around the world, the fact is that a sudden years-long disappearance would raise questions, and the realities of the financial trail that she would inevitably leave behind. And because of all that, that sort of travel almost certainly isn't feasible for her. She could, however, do something similar in China, in an arrangement that would benefit both Pyongyang and Beijing in their own ways. Beijing would get to emphasize its value as a destination for international students, form long-term connections with a woman who will one day lead the vassal state next door, and gain real leverage over Kim Jong-un by holding his daughter on Chinese soil. Pyongyang would get to confer the legitimacy of a Chinese education on Kim Ju-ai, build all the international connections that the supreme leader seems to want for her, and at the same time ensure her safety if a sudden transfer of power really did involve an attempted palace coup. And one day, whenever that day may come, it appears that Kim Ju-ai is on track to be the supreme leader of North Korea. What kind of leader she'll be, we certainly can't say. After all, she has yet to make even state-approved remarks or contributions during her public appearances. But if or when she does assume that mantle, she'll gain direct control of tens of millions of people in one of the most isolated and nightmarish places on Earth. Perhaps she'll change North Korea for the better. Perhaps she'll change it for the worse. But barring any surprise complications, it seems that she's going to get a chance to decide. Thank you for watching.